All right. Let's get right into it. This is the Keeping It Raw podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Click on that bell so that you'll be notified whenever we put up an upload. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our installment. All right, guys. Now, pretty much, we've been waiting on the Detroit Lions to make a decision on bringing in a free agent quarterback. And pretty much, a lot of the quarterbacks have, especially a lot of the good, solid quarterbacks, have already gone to teams already. And I'm trying to figure out, what is Brad Holmes doing? Is he playing a game of chess or is he playing a game of checkers? What is he doing? He's waiting pretty much. I know that in my mind, this is what I'm thinking, that Brad Holmes wanted to get a free agent, solid backup quarterback and be able to draft a quarterback in a draft. But when you look at it, you don't really know, because let's go through the list of quarterbacks that have already taken their talents to another team. Now, you have Derek Carr. We know Derek Carr ended up signing with the Saints. He's going to be their starting quarterback now. You have Jimmy G. He went to the Raiders. You have Taylor Heineke. He went to the Falcons. You have Andy Dalton. He went to the Panthers. You have Jarrett Stidham. He went to the Broncos. You have Jacoby Brissett. He went to the Commanders. You have Mike White. He went to the Dolphins. You have Case Keenum. He went to the Texans. You have Cooper Rush signing back with the Dallas Cowboys. You have Marcus Mariota go to the Philadelphia Eagles. You have Philip Walker go to the Chicago Bears. You have Sam Darnold going over to the San Francisco 49ers. You have not Drake, sorry about that. You got Drew Lock signing back with the Seattle Seahawks. And then you have Baker Mayfield signing signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then you have Nick Mullins going back to Minnesota. Then you got Gardner Minshew, who is somebody I definitely would have wanted the Detroit Lions to pick up. Gardner Minshew ends up signing with the Colts, and Cal Allen ends up backing up Josh Allen in Buffalo. Now, currently, the quarterbacks that you have available at your disposal right now is Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady. He still hasn't filled out his papers yet, but he still got to be able to do that. And I don't think Tom Brady's coming back. Teddy Bridgewater, Mason Rudolph, Joe Flacco, Blaine Gabbert, Chase Daniels, who we've already had before in Detroit, Trevor Siemian, Brian Hoyer, Brandon Allen, Josh Johnson, who's been in Detroit before, Nate Sudfeld, Nathan Peterman, Jeff Driscoll, who's been in Detroit before, Brett Rippin, also have John Wolford, and you got Trace McSorley and Bryce Perkins. Those are your available free agent quarterbacks. So the question again out there is on the table: is Brad Holmes playing chess, a game of chess, especially with us as fans? We want to know, man, because the quarterbacks that you have available to you, these guys, none of these guys I really would take. You know, maybe they would take a Teddy Bridgewater or something like that. Maybe they would take a Joe Flacco, somebody that's really solid, Mason Rudolph. But the rest of these guys, I don't know, man. So I'm thinking, is the Detroit Lions prepared to come up and make a trade up and come to the number 3 spot to take a quarterback? Now, the reason why I say this is because as I'm looking in the days I've gone on, and everybody else has made a move on a quarterback, and we decided to just go slow and not really make that move, are the Lions putting all their cards on drafting a quarterback? That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking that Brad Holmes could be doing, because why would we pass up on all these good quarterbacks that was out there and available, and then you see the ones that's available and you're like, nah, I don't want Carson Wentz. Nah, I don't want Matt Ryan. I don't want Mason Rudolph. Nah, I don't want this. I don't want Blaine Gabbert. I don't want Chase Daniels. I don't want Trevor Siemian. I don't want Hoyer. I don't want Brandon Allen, Josh Johnson, Nate Sudfeld, Nathan Peterman, Jeff Driscoll, Brett Rippin. I don't want John Wolford, who was used to be the backup to Matthew Stafford. I don't want Trace McSorley, and I don't want the young fella in Bryce Perkins. So it's like, if you don't want none of these guys, then what are you really doing in Detroit? because those are the available quarterbacks that can back up Jared Goff. Now, a lot of talk has been on Anthony Richardson, and I want to kind of say something about Anthony Richardson that's going to kind of be a little different from what everybody else is saying. I know everybody else is saying, no, I wouldn't take this kid. I would not draft this kid. I would not get Anthony Richardson because he's inconsistent in passing. He doesn't make all the right throws. Blah, 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 blah. You know, a lot of stuff that you hear about players. But look, you got to look at it like this, guys. Anthony Richardson has room to grow. Anthony Richardson and Hendon Hooker are perfect candidates for the Detroit Lions to take in this draft. And I'm not saying that the Lions are going to take Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. But what I'm saying is they are perfect candidates for the Detroit Lions because, for one, Hendon Hooker coming off his injury, that'll be great for him because that'll allow him to heal up and allow him to do the things that he needs to do as far as being a backup quarterback and then eventually getting the reins turned over to him eventually, because you're going to have to pay somebody. You're going to have to eventually pay Jared Goff his money. And Jared Goff is going to be upwards of, 45 to 50 million that you're going to have to end up paying Jared Goff. So you're going to either pay now or you're going to pay later. You know what I'm saying? So this is the perfect situation and the perfect storm for the Detroit Lions to go out there and get a young quarterback and groom him. See, I don't write off players just because they didn't have the greatest college stats and stuff like that. I don't write guys off because I know guys have an opportunity to grow. I know guys have an opportunity to get better. And Anthony Richardson has all that you want in a quarterback. He has the upsides. Yeah, he's big. Yeah, he's fast. He has all the intangibles that you want in a quarterback. But the only thing that you want Anthony Richardson to get better with is his mechanics, his accuracy of throwing the football, footwork, things of that nature. Those are things that can be taught to this kid still. He's only 21 years old. You have to be able to think that way. These guys can get better, man. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't played a down in the NFL yet, and everybody's already writing the guy off, already saying he's going to be a bust. You have to give these guys the benefit of the doubt and let these guys go out there and ball out. Let them play. Let them make their mistakes. If he's sitting behind a Jared Goff, that's a perfect situation for him. He's only 21 years old, so when he is ready to take over the team, he'll be what 23, 20, maybe 24, somewhere in there when he's ready to take the team over. If the Lions drafted Anthony Richardson, I would be for it. I know a lot of people say, nah, man, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know football. You don't know this. You don't know that. But at the same time, I do know this, is that a player has an opportunity to get better. And this kid said, if you go into his combine and you look at his interviews and what he said, this kid said, I want to be a legend. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen for him, but at least he's out there talking with confidence. I want to be like Pat Mahomes. I want to be like Tom Brady. He said this in his interview. Go back and look at the interview at the combine. Richardson said this. And when I saw him say that, man, that really, really pondered in my mind. Said, man, this kid is willing to put the work in to get better. That's the type of player you want on your football team. A guy that you know that's going to be no nonsense and a guy that's going to be working on his craft to get better. Yes, he needs to get better with throwing the short routes, not putting so much zing on the ball and trying to break the receiver's fingers, things of that nature. And then he also needs to get better with his accuracy and his footwork and his mechanics. And I think that he's a perfect candidate to sit behind Jared Goff. I think that Hendon Hooker is a perfect candidate to sit behind Jared Goff. Even though Hooker is a little bit older, I still think just because of his injury, because I think if Hooker did not get injured, he would be in that first round. Now, I'm not saying that no team would not be willing to take a chance on Hendon Hooker and selecting him in the first round, because you never know what teams are thinking. You don't know what teams are going to do until the draft hits on that day. And then you find out what that team was thinking about. So because we have not taken a quarterback right now, currently a free agent quarterback, and I'm not saying that they're not going to take one. They still could take one of these guys. But because they have not taken one of these quarterbacks, could Brad Holmes be thinking about moving up to 3? Now I know a lot of us would love to have Jalen Carter be on the team, even though there's a lot of bad reports about his character and just all the situational stuff that he's been going through off the field, with the incident and stuff like that. But we know that Jalen Carter is still a dog. No matter what, no matter what team he goes to, he's going to be a solid football player. But the biggest thing is when you really, really, truly need a player to develop, because I know most people say, yeah, if you get the quarterback, he has to play right away. No, he doesn't. The quarterback does not have to play right away just because he gets drafted in the first round and he's one of the top players being drafted and taken off the board. He does not have to play right away. He can sit and he can marinate and he can learn. Anthony Richardson, I believe if he starts right away, now I don't know if Carolina or the Texans think highly of him. Everybody saw what he did at the combine, but anybody can be a combine warrior. We're not just talking about being a combine warrior. We're talking about going out there and putting the work in. And I think that this young man is one of those guys that have that character, that he's going to work hard and he's going to be motivated to get out on the football field and to prove the naysayers wrong. Because a lot of people are talking about this kid, and I wouldn't take this kid, his inconsistency of throwing the football. He can't do this. He can't do that. It's just too many bad things with this kid. And sometimes that be the guy that you should have took. And we are the type of fans in Detroit is if a player gets drafted to another team and he blows up, then we all of a sudden we regret on not selecting that player. That's how we are in Detroit. I've noticed that as a fan, as our fandom has truly hit. When it comes to players, we allow them to go to different teams, and when they get on a different team and they blow up and they do really well, they be like, man, why didn't we take that player? We have an opportunity to get better and get younger at the quarterback spot. Right now is a perfect time for the Lions to draft a quarterback. And if Brad Holmes is playing a game of chess, maybe he decides to come up at 3 overall and take a quarterback. It's pretty much said that C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young are going to be the first 2 quarterbacks taken, but you never know what somebody else is thinking as well. Somebody else could be thinking that I love the upsize of Anthony Richardson. I love the ceiling because he's one of the younger quarterbacks in this draft. So I can't wait to see what Brian Holmes is going to do. Will Teddy Bridgewater be one of those quarterbacks that the Lions pick as a free agent? Because most of the guys out there, let's look, let's face it, man, we don't really want these guys as backups, really. You don't really want Carson Wentz in Detroit, do you? Do you want Matt Ryan? Matt Ryan is not the same type of quarterback anymore. You can't get Tom because Tom is not coming back. Mason Rudolph, maybe he could be a guy that backs up a Jared Goff. Joe Flacco has been pretty solid. Chase Daniel, we already dealt with him before. Blaine Gabbert, nah, I don't want him. Brian Hoyer, nah, I really don't want him. Josh Johnson, we've already had on the team. Nate Sudfeld, we already had on the team. Nathan Peterman, nah, stay away from Nate. Jeff Driscoll, maybe I could bring Jeff back. He has a little different skill set from these other quarterbacks that's out there. Maybe I bring Jeff Driscoll back as a free agent quarterback. Do I want Brett Ripken? No, I don't really want him. Do I want John Warford? No. Do I want Trace McSorley? No. Do I want Bryce Perkins, who's a younger quarterback that was backing up Matthew Stafford last year? He had some success a little bit, but he didn't have the success that probably the Rams was banking on. So Brad Holmes could be playing a game of chess and strategizing on ways to come up to number 3. I'm not saying that he's going to do it. He could just stay put at 6. But the Arizona Cardinals want to trade down. They do want to come out of that 3 spot. And the only teams that I can see that's really, if they really are quarterback needy, is the Colts and the Raiders coming up to possibly try to get a quarterback. I think everybody else will probably stay put. And the Lions, this has to be on their mind, man. You can't tell me that this is not on Brad Holmes' mind, even though we don't know what he's going to do. But none of those backup quarterbacks that I just named that you really want in Detroit, you don't really want none of these guys, really. So having a Hendon Hooker, having a guy like and it doesn't even have to be Hendon Hooker. It could be other quarterbacks, too. There's a lot of other quarterbacks in the draft class as well. It could be other guys that the Lions have been looking at that we don't even know that they're looking at. It could be the quarterback from TCU, Max Duggan. It could be him. It could be Malik Cunningham. It could be any of these guys. We don't know. But at the same time, Richardson and Henderson definitely have what you want. They got the size, the prototype size that you want in a quarterback. Richardson is younger, so the ceiling on him is for him to come in, sit behind Jared Goff, and learn and work on his mechanics. Learn on how to clean up the stuff that he didn't clean up when he was in college. But I think that you just can't count these players out. Don't count none of these players out. Don't count the quarterbacks out. None of these guys have suited up in the NFL yet. These guys deserve the opportunity to show their skill set and show their worth. And none of these guys have played in the NFL yet. So before I really just say that this guy is trash or this guy is no good, I'm going to really do the homework on it and say, is this an investment that will pay off for me in the end? And I think that it's something that will pay off, especially if they grab a Richardson or a Hooker. Man, we would be scary with Anthony Richardson. If Anthony Richardson gets better and cleans up his mechanics and works on the things that he needs to work on in the offseason, Anthony Richardson could be scary, man. He could be a scary quarterback. And I'm just keeping it real because he has everything. We're not even talking about his legs. We just want him to get better as a quarterback. Because if he gets better as a quarterback, he going to tear this league up. And I'm just keeping it real. If Anthony Richardson, he already has a cannon of an arm. He's probably one of the most powerful and strongest quarterbacks in this draft at the age of 21. So there's room for improvement. There's room for growth. There's room for development of this player. And this is a guy that you can sit behind Jared Goff and you don't have to pressure him to go out on day one and make all the throws. Now, if he goes to another team in another situation, they may decide to start him right away. And that may not be a good thing for him, especially with knowing that he needs to clean up his mechanics because he does have work that he has to do in order to be that type of quarterback that he wants to be in the NFL. And he already said that I want to be a legend. So I love everything that this kid, I love the confidence that's oozing out of this young fella. I don't just want to write this guy off and say, nah, don't even look at Anthony Richardson because the talent is there, guys. The talent is there with Anthony Richardson and guys like Hendon Hooker. And these are two prime candidates that the Lions could have as their backup quarterback. So I just want to know if Brad Holmes is playing a game of chess with us, playing a game of checkers. What is he doing? So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. This is the Keeping It Raw podcast, and I'm going to come back with more content and more videos for you. I'm out of here. Until next time, peace.